Kira stood on the metal platform and felt nothing. The lights above burned down on her skin, hot and steady. Around her, the auction house filled with buyers. They came here to purchase what they needed. Kira was what they needed. She had been trained since birth to feel nothing during these moments. Her creators at the Valorian Collective had designed her species for one purpose: to serve. They had given her a strong body, a sharp mind, and a heart that could be switched off when required. She was a tool. Tools did not worry. Tools did not fear. The auction house of Darius Prime was the largest in the sector. Slaves from 100 worlds stood in chains or in open cages, waiting for buyers. Some of them cried. Some tried to run. The guards stopped them with stun rods and chemical gas. Kira watched all of this without moving her eyes. The auctioneer was a Valorian named Vex. He was tall with blue skin and 4 arms. His voice was loud and sharp like broken glass. He moved down the line of slaves, describing each one like he was reading from a menu. This one here, a Tharan male. Strong arms. Good for mining work. Resistant to radiation. Vex moved on. 2 Keltas. Young. Good for household work. Obedient. No trouble. When he reached Kira, he smiled. His teeth were filed to points. Now this is special, he said. This is Kira, a designed servant from the Valorian genetic vaults. Look at her. He moved around her, touching her arm, her shoulder, her hair. Kira did not move. Strong, fast, smart, fluent in 7 languages. Combat medicine training. Tactical thinking. Independent problem solving. He paused. Or so the file says. An older Valorian buyer stepped forward. He had a scarred face and wore expensive clothes. What is her history? He asked. She served the House of Meridian for 9 years, Vex said. Good service record. No discipline problems until recently. Until recently? The buyer repeated. The previous owner said she began to show personality, independent choices. She suggested changes to household routines. She asked questions about why she was not allowed to read certain materials. Small things, but they troubled the owner. He said she was becoming defective. The scarred buyer frowned. He turned away. Too risky. A slave should know her place. Not think. Not suggest. Not ask. I will not bid on defective goods. One by one, the buyers moved past Kira. Some looked at her for only a second. Others asked questions but then walked away shaking their heads. The Valorian Collective had programmed her to be capable, to think, to solve problems. But in a slave, these qualities were not wanted. They wanted obedience. They wanted servitude. They wanted emptiness. Kira felt a strange pain in her chest when the scarred buyer rejected her. She pushed the pain away. Pain was not allowed. Emotions were not allowed. After 2 hours, only one person remained in the auction house who seemed interested in buying. He stood in the back, away from the others. He was human. Kira had seen humans before, but not many. Earth had only recently joined the galactic community, and humans were still strange to most species. They were weaker than Valorians, shorter than Keltas, and far less advanced technologically than most other civilizations. Nobody paid much attention to them. They were a curiosity, nothing more. This human was different. He was not like the serious Valorian buyers with their cold eyes and sharp voices. He watched everything carefully. His expression was not empty like a buyer looking at goods. It was interested. He looked at Kira the way someone might look at a book they wanted to understand, not a tool they wanted to use. The auctioneer had given up. Wow, Vex said, spreading his hands. It seems this one is too much trouble. I will start the bidding very low. Who will take her? Silence filled the room. The human in the back raised his hand. Every head turned. Vex's expression showed surprise. then amusement. Ah, we have interest from the human. Do you understand what you are bidding on, human? The human stepped forward. He was tall for his kind, with dark hair and a square face. He wore simple clothes and boots that were worn from travel. I understand, he said. His voice was quiet but clear. I want to know more about her before I bid. Is that allowed? Vex laughed. It was not a kind sound. Ask what you wish. The human turned to Kira and looked directly into her eyes. What is your name? He asked. Kira, she answered. Her voice had been trained to be soft and emotionless. Do you know how to read, Kira? Yes, she said. She did not ask why he wanted to know. What have you read? Kira hesitated. This question was not in the normal pattern. Buyers did not ask her what she had read. Technical manuals, scientific papers, medical texts, books about history. What kind of history do you like? Kira felt something strange move through her body. Like electricity. Like something waking up. No one had ever asked her what she liked. I do not know how to answer that, she said. The human nodded slowly. That is honest. I appreciate honesty. He turned to Vex. I will bid, he said. 500 credits. The scarred buyer had offered 800. The other serious buyers had offered more than that. But nobody else was bidding now. Vex looked around the empty room. Do I hear 600? Vex asked. No one answered. 500 credits, going once. Going twice, sold. To the human. Vex brought his hand down on the counter, and a bell rang out across the auction house. Kira felt shock move through her. She had been sold to a human. To someone weak. To someone the galaxy barely considered important. She did not know if this was good or bad. The human approached her after Vex removed the chains. My name is Jack Harrison, he said. I am captain of a small ship called the Wanderer. I bought you because I am interested in what you can become, not what you have been forced to be. I do not know if you will want to stay with me or hate me, but I want to give you a choice. Kira did not understand. No one in her life had ever offered her a choice. Jack gestured toward the door. Come, let us leave this place. Kira followed him, and with every step away from the auction block, she felt the weight of her chains begin to loosen. Though she did not yet know it was possible for chains to ever truly break. The Wanderer was small. It was not like the grand ships Kira had seen in the Valorian fleets. It was old. The walls were patched in places. The engine made sounds that seemed wrong. But Jack moved through it like a captain who knew every corner, every problem, every strength. He showed Kira to a small room that had been prepared for her. It had a bed, a desk, and a window that looked out into space. This is your space, Jack said. You can spend time here, or you can move around the ship. The doors are not locked. You can go where you want. Kira stood in the doorway and said nothing. She had been in locked quarters before. She had been in cages. She had been kept in rooms with guards at the doors. Unlocked doors felt like a trap. If the doors were unlocked, they wanted her to try to escape. Then they would punish her for attempting escape. This was the game. This was how they tested obedience. You do not have to trust me, Jack said. That is fine. Trust takes time. But I am telling you the truth. The doors are not locked because I do not think locking you would help either of us. Kira did not answer. She moved into the room and the door slid closed behind her. She waited for hours. No punishment came. No guards entered. She stood by the window and watched the stars and felt confused the next morning. Jack asked her what she wanted to do. Kira did not know how to answer. She knew how to follow orders. She knew how to complete tasks. She did not know how to want things. I can work, she said. I can clean. I can maintain the ship. I can cook. Okay, Jack said. If you want to do those things, you can. But you do not have to. What else interests you? Kira could not think of an answer, so she began to work. She cleaned the ship from top to bottom. She organized systems. She cooked meals that were simple but good. Jack never complained about her work. He also never seemed to need her work. He cleaned up after himself. He made his own meals on days when Kira did not cook. He seemed to move through the ship like a person who did not need a slave. One day, she found Jack in the navigation room. He was studying a star chart and frowning at something on the screen. Code ran across the display. Numbers and symbols that meant something to him but looked like chaos to Kira. She stood in the doorway and watched. "Do you want to know what I am working on?" Jack asked without looking up. "I was not invited to speak," Kira said. This was what she had been taught. Speak only when asked. Wait for permission. Jack turned in his chair. "Okay, let me be clear. In this place, you can speak anytime you want. You can ask questions. You can offer ideas. You do not need permission. You are not a possession. You are a person. Start acting like one." It was the first time anyone had told her this directly. Kira felt something crack inside her, like ice breaking apart. "What are you working on?" she asked. "The navigation system is damaged," Jack said. "I took some damage in a trade route dispute a few weeks ago. The system still works, but it is slow. I am trying to find a way to make it faster without buying parts I cannot afford." Kira stepped forward and looked at the code. Her mind began to work. She had been trained in many things. Technical systems were not something she had been trained to understand, but her brain could learn quickly. She looked at the problem. "The processor is splitting resources between 3 tasks," she said. "The scan function, the calculation function, the display function. If you separated them into parallel processes instead of sequential ones, you could increase speed without adding hardware." Jack stared at her. "Can you show me?" For the next 2 hours, Kira worked at the navigation console beside Jack. She understood the systems. She understood how pieces fit together. She understood problems and solutions. Jack listened to every idea. He did not dismiss her. He did not tell her to be quiet. He made improvements to her suggestions when he thought of better ways to do things, and he explained why. He treated her like a person who could think. When they finished, the navigation system was 30% faster. "Thank you," Jack said. "That was really good work." "I was not ordered to help," Kira said slowly. "I chose to help." "Yes," Jack said. "You did." That is what partnership looks like. The word partnership stayed in Kira's mind. It was a word she did not understand. Days passed. Jack began to treat Kira like a crew member. He showed her the ship's systems. He let her make decisions about routes. He asked her opinion on problems. Kira began to feel something she had never felt before. Useful in a way that was about more than just obedience. She was useful because she was smart, because she had ideas, because she could think. One day, as they moved through contested space, alarms began to sound. Pirates attacked the ship. Jack was struck by a blast from a weapon. Blood poured from a wound in his side. He fell to the floor of the engine room, and pain showed on his face in a way Kira had never seen pain show on a face before. Something happened inside Kira. All her training had taught her to wait, to ask permission, to follow orders. But Jack was hurt. Jack was dying. She did not ask what to do. She moved. She used her combat medical training. She cut away the damaged clothing. She saw the wound and understood it immediately. It was bad. It could kill him. She worked without asking questions. She used the medical supplies she found in the ship. She sutured the wound with steady hands. She gave him medicine for the infection and pain. She stayed beside him for hours and watched to make sure he did not die. When Jack woke hours later, he looked up at Kira and smiled. "You saved my life," he said. "I did not wait for permission," Kira said. It sounded wrong when she said it out loud, like she had done something wrong. "Good," Jack said. "You should never wait for permission to save someone's life." That night, Kira sat in her room and thought about everything that had changed. She had been bought as a slave. She had been expected to break. Instead, she had been given freedom. Instead, she had been allowed to think. Instead, she had saved someone's life not because she was ordered to, but because she chose to. She did not know how to explain it. But something inside her had woken up, and she did not think it would go back to sleep. Jack recovered slowly. The wound in his side was serious, but Kira's work had saved him from death. Every day, she changed his bandages and watched for infection. Every day, Jack thanked her and looked at her with eyes that held something different from how other humans had looked at her. 2 weeks after the attack, when Jack was strong enough to sit up without pain, he asked Kira to come sit with him. They were in his quarters, a small room with a large window showing the endless dark of space. "I need to tell you something," Jack said. "And I need you to listen carefully, because this is important." Kira sat on the edge of his bed. Fear moved through her. This was the moment when things would change, when the game would end, when punishment would come. "I am going to free you," Jack said. Kira did not move. The words did not make sense. "In the eyes of the Valorian Collective, you are my property," Jack continued. "I bought you. I own you. That is the law in this part of the galaxy. But I do not want to own you. I want something different." "What?" Kira asked. Her voice sounded very small. "I want you to be my partner," Jack said. "Not my slave. Not my property. My partner. That means you work with me, not for me. That means your decisions matter as much as mine. That means you are free to leave whenever you want. Free to stay because you choose to stay, not because you have to." Kira stood up and walked to the window. She could not look at Jack. The idea of freedom was so large that she could not fit it in her mind. Freedom meant responsibility. Freedom meant she had to decide who she was and what she wanted. She had spent her whole life waiting for someone else to decide these things. "What if I do not want freedom?" she asked. "Then you would be choosing to stay with me," Jack said. "But you would be choosing, not being forced. That is the difference." "People will say you are a fool for freeing someone valuable," Kira said. "Let them," Jack replied. "I care about what I think, not what others think." Jack stood, moving carefully because his wounds still hurt. He put on clothes and sat in a chair. "Tomorrow we are going to Station Echo 7. The Earth Coalition has offices there. We will go to the legal office and file papers to free you officially. It will become a legal record. You will no longer be property. You will be a person with rights." That night, Kira did not sleep. She lay in her bed and thought about what it would mean to be free. She imagined walking away from the Wanderer. She imagined going somewhere else. She imagined never seeing Jack again. The thought hurt in a way she did not understand. Station Echo 7 was large and busy. Ships came and went. Traders shouted. The air smelled like metal and fuel and 100 different species. Jack took Kira to the Earth Coalition legal office. It was a small room with a tired-looking human woman sitting behind a desk. Her name was Officer Linda Hayes. "I want to file for emancipation," Jack said. "This person was purchased as a slave. I want to free her legally." Officer Hayes looked up from her work. "That is unusual," she said. She was not unkind. just tired. We do not get many of these. The collective does not usually sell people they want freed. Who did you buy from? Vex at the Darius Prime auction house. Officer Hayes typed on her console. Yes, it is legal. The person is listed as a Valorian design servant. Technically, freeing her is your right as owner. Fill out these forms. It will take a few days for processing. The forms were long and complicated. Jack answered questions. Where had he purchased her? When? For what price? Was the purchase legal? Yes, everything had been legal. He had simply chosen to free her instead of keeping her, while they waited for the papers to process. Jack showed Kira the Earth Coalition station. It was different from anywhere else she had been. The humans worked alongside other species without the clear hierarchy she saw everywhere else. A Valorian and a human worked at a counter together as equals. A Kelton and a human shared an office. Jack took her to a place that served food from Earth. The woman who ran it was old and kind. She gave Kira food called pie. It was sweet and filled with fruit. Kira had never tasted anything made just for pleasure before. Try it, Jack said. Kira ate it slowly. The sweetness filled her mouth and made her think about something other than survival and obedience. It was strange. It was good. People make things like this, Jack said, not because they have to, but because they enjoy making them. That is another thing about freedom. You can make things just because you want to. On the final day before the papers would be official, a Valorian official came to the Coalition office. His name was Consul Thorn. He was large and angry. I represent the Valorian collective, he said. His voice was like thunder. This human has stolen one of our genetic creations. This is property. This is theft. Jack stood up and faced him. I did not steal her. I bought her legally. And now I am freeing her legally. Your own laws allow this. You have no claim. You have damaged her value, Thorn said. You have made her think she is something she is not. She is a tool. She is nothing without purpose. You have broken her. Jack did something that shocked everyone in the room. He pulled a weapon. It was small, but it looked dangerous. He pointed it directly at Thorn's chest. Let me be very clear, Jack said quietly. This person is not property. If you or anyone from the collective tries to reclaim her, I will defend her. With this weapon. With my life. And when I am done, the Earth Coalition will help me, because we do not accept slavery. Not in any form. Not for any reason. You can test me if you want. But I do not think you will like what happens. The room went silent. Everyone stared at Jack and his weapon and his absolute certainty. Thorn stepped back slowly. You are making a mistake, he said. The collective does not forget. Good, Jack said. I want them to remember. Remember that there is a human who will not bow. Remember that your slaves can choose freedom. Remember that your system is wrong. Thorn left without another word. The next day, the papers were official. Kira was no longer property. She was a person with a legal right to be free. Officer Hayes gave her the documents and said, Welcome to freedom, Miss Kira. What will you do now? Kira looked at Jack. He was looking at her with the same expression he had from the day he bought her. Like he believed she could be something important. I choose to stay, Kira said. I choose to work with Jack Harrison. I choose to be his partner. Jack smiled and reached out his hand. Kira took it. Together, they walked out of Station Echo 7 and back toward the Wanderer. Kira was no longer a slave. She was no longer property. She was something she had never been before. She was free. And she had chosen to share that freedom with someone who had seen her as a person long before the law agreed. Freedom was harder than slavery. Kira had not expected this. She had thought that once she was free, everything would be simple. She would be happy. She would know who she was. But freedom meant making decisions every single day, and decisions meant she could choose wrong. She worked on the Wanderer with Jack. They flew together through the dark spaces between stars. They took cargo contracts. They made repairs. They navigated through dangerous territory. But everything was different now because Kira had to decide if she wanted to do these things. Some days she did. She felt good working beside Jack. She felt purpose. She felt useful. Other days, she felt lost. She had been designed to serve. That was her purpose. That was what she was made for. Now that she was free, what was she? A navigator? A mechanic? A fighter? A friend? The word friend was new to her. She had not thought of Jack as a friend before. He had been her owner. Then he had been the person who freed her. But maybe he was something else now too. Jack never seemed to notice her confusion. He moved through his life with a certainty she did not have. He wanted things. He pursued them. He did not question himself. Kira envied this and resented it at the same time. One night, Kira sat alone in her quarters and thought about going back to the Valorian Collective. She could return to Darius Prime. She could ask to be purchased again. She could return to servitude. At least then she would know who she was. At least then she would not have to make decisions. But then she remembered the feeling of Jack looking at her with respect. She remembered the moment when she saved his life by choosing to act. She remembered the taste of pie made for pleasure instead of nutrition. And she knew she could not go back, even if she wanted to. 3 months after Kira was freed, they received a distress signal from the colony world of Kepler-442. The message came through broken and damaged. A voice of a human man, frightened and desperate. Raiders from the outer territories had attacked the colony. The defenses were failing. They needed help. Jack looked at the signal and looked at Kira. "We are close," he said. "We can reach them in 12 hours. But if we go, we will be heading into a combat situation. The raiders will have weapons. People will die. Possibly us." "Why are you asking me?" Kira said. "Because we are partners," Jack said. "This is your choice too. We can help them or we can leave. Your decision matters." Kira thought about it. She thought about what the Valorian Collective would say. They would say to protect yourself. They would say that other species were not your problem. They would say that helping others was foolish. "We go," Kira said. "We help them." Jack nodded and changed the ship's course. The colony was in chaos when they arrived. Buildings burned. The air shook with explosions. 3 raider ships circled overhead, firing weapons at the colonial defenses. Jack moved the Wanderer into position and began firing at the raider ships. Kira moved to the weapons station. She had combat training. She understood tactics. She looked at where the raider ships would go and fired before they got there. She thought about the patterns they would follow and interrupted them. Her mind worked in ways the Valorian designers had never intended. They had given her combat skills to protect her owner. Kira used those skills to protect people she had never met. The battle lasted 3 hours. 1 raider ship was destroyed. Another was damaged badly enough to jump away. The third tried to escape, and Jack pursued it. In the end, the colony was saved. When they landed, the colonial commander came to meet them. His name was Commander Sullivan. He was an older human with scars on his face that looked like they came from fire or weapons. "Thank you," Sullivan said to Jack. "You saved us." "We did what we could," Jack said. Sullivan's eyes moved to Kira. "You have a tactical officer?" he asked. "I have a partner," Jack said. "Her name is Kira." Sullivan studied Kira for a long time. "I could use someone like that," he said. "The Coalition pays well for people with combat and tactical training." especially designed soldiers. I could offer you a contract. You would be well paid. You would be important. It was a kind offer. Kira understood that. But something in Sullivan's tone made her uncomfortable. He was not offering her a job. He was trying to buy her again. The language was different, but the meaning was the same. Jack stepped forward. "No," he said. "She is not for sale. Not for any price." Sullivan frowned. "I am not asking you. I am asking her." All eyes in the room turned to Kira. This was a choice. She could stay with Jack and his small ship and his uncertain life. Or she could take Sullivan's offer and be important and valued for what she could do. But when she thought about being valuable only for what she could do, she remembered the auction block. She remembered feeling like a tool. "I stay with Jack," she said. Sullivan left angry and disappointed. That night, Kira stood in Jack's quarters. "Why did you refuse?" she asked. "The money would have helped the Wanderer. The contract would have made you stronger." Jack looked at her for a long time. "Because your worth is not determined by what you can do for someone else," he said. "You are not valuable because of your skills. You are valuable because you exist. You are a person. People cannot be sold. People cannot be bought. That is the difference between the collective and Earth. We understand that." Kira felt something break inside her chest. Not in a bad way. In the way that something locked finally opens. She thought she was free when she was freed from slavery. But this moment, when Jack refused to sell her even for money and power, this was when she truly understood what freedom meant. It meant someone could see you and not want anything from you except to have you be yourself. Kira began to cry. Jack did not try to stop her. He did not try to comfort her. He simply sat with her in the darkness of space and let her cry. "I think I understand now," Kira said. "I think I finally understand what partnership is." "It is good," Jack said quietly. "Partnership should feel like this. Like being understood. Like being valued for who you are, not what you can do." From that moment, Kira was different. She still made decisions that confused her. She still felt lost sometimes. But she knew one thing that was certain. She was not alone, and she was not being used. She was part of something real. She was part of something human beings understood a long time ago. She was part of a partnership that was built on respect instead of ownership. And for the first time in her life, she was exactly where she wanted to be. The message from the Valorian Collective came 6 months later. Jack and Kira were deep in the Theta sector when their communication system received an official notice. The letter was written in formal language that meant only one thing. The Collective was coming for them. The notice said that Jack Harrison had committed an act of theft. He had taken property of the Collective. He had damaged that property by introducing ideas of freedom and self-determination. The Collective demanded his arrest. They demanded Kira's return to the slave market. They declared him an enemy of galactic stability and traditional order. The Earth Coalition received the notice too. For days, there was arguing in their headquarters. Some people said to give in. The Collective was too powerful. Resistance would only make things worse. Others said to fight. Earth had principles. They could not sacrifice principles for safety. Commander Sullivan argued for Kira. He said that what had happened on his colony proved that designed beings could be more than what they were created for. He said that Kira had chosen to help when she was free, not because she was forced to. That choice meant something. In the end, the Earth Coalition decided to back Jack and Kira, not with military force, but with legal support, with public statements, with the simple refusal to accept that freedom could be wrong. Jack and Kira were called to a formal hearing on Darius Prime, the same station where Kira had been bought at auction, the same place where she had been treated like a tool. They arrived with coalition lawyers and Earth representatives. The hearing was held in a large chamber with representatives from hundreds of species. The Valorian Collective had brought their best lawyers. They had brought judges who agreed with their system. They had brought wealth and power and history. Kira and Jack had only each other. Consul Thorne opened the case. He spoke about property rights. He spoke about the dangers of allowing designed species to choose their own paths. He presented arguments that had been used for thousands of years to justify slavery. The collective's lawyer stood and pointed at Kira. "This is a biological tool," the lawyer said. "It was created for a purpose. Giving it ideas above its status damages the thing it was meant to be. It is like breaking a ship and then claiming the ship has been freed. The ship is still broken. The tool is still damaged." The room was silent. It was a powerful argument because it was the argument that everyone had always used to support slavery. Then, Kira stood. Everyone waited for Jack to speak for her. But Kira stepped forward to the speaking place herself. Her legs shook slightly, but her voice was steady. "My name is Kira," she said. "I was created by the Valorian Collective to be a slave. I was designed to obey. I was taught that thinking for myself was a defect. For my entire life, I accepted this. I thought I was broken because I wanted to ask questions. I thought I was wrong because I wanted to understand things. I thought I was failing at my purpose when I dreamed about something different." She paused. The entire chamber listened. "Then a human named Jack Harrison bought me at auction." Kira continued. "He was weaker than my creators. He had less technology. His species was younger and less advanced. But he did something no one in my entire life had ever done. He asked me what I wanted. He looked at me and saw a person instead of a tool." Kira's voice became stronger. "When I was freed, I did not stop being able to think. I did not stop being able to solve problems. I did not break like the collective's Lyra claims. I became more of what I already was. If thinking for myself and choosing my own path is damage, then damage is the same thing as freedom. And I will not apologize for being free." The lawyer stood. "You are programmed to say this. This is not real choice. This is malfunction speaking." Kira answered immediately. "Every thought I have is the result of my programming. So is every thought every species has. You were programmed by your parents and your culture and your history. Does that make your choices not real? If self-awareness and the desire for freedom is damaged, then you are also damaged. All conscious beings are damaged. We are all broken. And that brokenness is called consciousness." There was complete silence in the chamber. The chief judge, a neutral species called a Kelton who had no stake in slavery, leaned forward. "The question," the judge said slowly, "is whether a designed being has rights. The collective says no. This being says yes. How do we decide?" Jack stood. "You look at what she does when she is free," he said. "You look at her choices. You watch what she becomes. When Kira was enslaved, she would have obeyed any order. She would have destroyed herself to follow commands. I watched her save my life when I was dying. Not because she was ordered to, but because she chose to. She did not think about saving her owner or preserving her master's property. She simply chose to save a life. That choice, that compassion, that is not something you can program into someone. That is something only free beings can do." The hearing continued for 3 days. There were arguments and counter-arguments. The collective presented evidence that designed beings were less advanced emotionally. Jack and Kira presented evidence of Kira's emotional complexity and independent thought. The collective said freedom would cause chaos. The coalition said that slavery caused more chaos than freedom. In the end, the judges had to make a decision. They could not force the collective to stop enslaving beings. There were not enough forces to do that. But they could rule that Kira was no longer the property of the collective. They could rule that Earth would protect her from recapture. They could send a message to the galaxy that freedom had value. The chief judge announced the ruling. The individual known as Kira is recognized as a person with full rights. The Valorian collective has no claim to ownership. Any attempt to reclaim this person will be considered an act of aggression against the Earth Coalition and all our allies. This hearing is concluded. Thorn's face burned with anger. The collective's lawyers stood and left in silence. Jack reached for Kira's hand. She took it, and they walked out of the chamber together. Later that night, they stood on the observation deck of the Wanderer and watched Darius Prime recede behind them. The legal battle was not over. The collective would not accept the ruling. But for now, they were free to move. Free to choose their direction. "Why did you believe in me?" Kira asked Jack. "When I was on the auction block, you had never met me. You did not know if I was worth saving. Why did you buy me?" Jack looked at her and smiled. "Because I saw something in your eyes," he said. "I saw the same thing I see in every person who has been told they are nothing but a tool. I saw someone who was trying very hard not to think because thinking had gotten her in trouble. I saw someone who was pretending to be empty because that was safer than being full." He put his arm around her shoulders. "I bought you because I am human," Jack said. "And humans can see that someone is more than what they have been forced to be. That is not something special. That is just what we do. We see people where other species see things. We choose to believe in second chances and freedom and the possibility that someone can become more than what was done to them." Kira leaned against him and looked at the stars. "What happens now?" she asked. "The collective is still out there. There are more of my kind still enslaved. Nothing really changed." "Something changed," Jack said. "A seed was planted. Species that never questioned slavery are now questioning it. Young Valorians are asking why freedom is wrong. The idea is spreading. It will take time. It will take many more battles. But once you show people that freedom is possible, they cannot unsee it. Will I ever stop being afraid?" Kira asked. Jack was quiet for a moment. "I do not know," he said. "Freedom means you have to keep choosing it every day. That is harder than slavery, because slavery never asks you to decide anything. But being afraid is better than being empty. Being uncertain is better than being certain you are nothing. You are afraid because you are becoming something real." Kira looked at Jack and understood what he had seen in her from the beginning. She was not broken. She was not damaged. She was not a tool or a failure or a defect. She was becoming a person. And for the first time in her life, she was not afraid of that. The Wanderer jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, Darius Prime disappeared into the dark. Ahead of them, the galaxy waited. There would be more battles. There would be more suffering. There would be more designed beings waiting to be freed. But there would also be hope. And hope, Kira learned, was what made humans dangerous to systems that depended on despair. Hope was what made a human like Jack Harrison worth more than all the weapons and fleets in the galaxy. And hope was what made a slave like Kira decide that freedom was worth fighting for. Together, they moved through the stars, not as owner and property, not as master and slave, but as partners walking into an uncertain future, choosing each day to believe that something better was possible. That was the story of how a human freed a slave and changed the galaxy. But more importantly, it was the story of how a designed being became a person. And that transformation, more than any law or ruling or battle, was what truly changed everything.